In the year 2179, humanity stood at the edge of the unknown. After centuries of dreaming, arguing and trying, Earth had finally done it. They had built the most powerful transmitter in history, the Deep Reach Array. It sat far beyond the clouds, on the cold red soil of Mars, its giant silver dishes stretching across the horizon like mirrors to the stars. It could send a message farther than any signal ever made. And that message was simple, a friendly greeting to whoever or whatever might be listening out there. The world called it Project Dawnlight. It was meant to be a symbol of hope, of peace. A message saying, "We are here. We come in peace. We want to learn." When the signal was sent, billions of people watched the broadcast. They saw the light pulse from the Mars array, shooting into space like a golden thread. It would take thousands of years to reach any real target. So everyone believed they would never live to see an answer. They were wrong. 3 days later, every sensor on Mars began screaming. Not one, not two, all of them. It started at 3:14 a.m. Universal Time. The main console on Mars Station 9 suddenly lit up red. Lines of unreadable data filled the screens. Engineers thought it was a glitch, maybe solar radiation interference. But the data stream didn't stop. It grew stronger, louder. By the time Earth Command was alerted, the signal had reached the Moon, then Earth itself. Satellites picked it up. Deep space observatories confirmed it. The same signal that humanity had sent out 3 days earlier was coming back, exactly the same. But with something added. Dr. Mara Cade, lead astrophysicist of Project Dawnlight, was the first to notice the difference. The original signal had been a coded message of light, mathematical patterns, binary sequences, a digital handshake. But now, something inside that code had changed. When her team analyzed it, they found an extra frequency, a heartbeat-like rhythm hidden deep in the noise. It pulsed, 1-2, pause, 1-2, like the beating of something alive. No one could explain it. It wasn't random. It wasn't a natural echo. The data formed a living pattern. Someone, or something, had received the human signal and had sent it back. With their own mark inside it, governments denied it at first. The global network said it was a data reflection, an echo bouncing off an unknown satellite. But independent observatories all across the solar system confirmed the same truth. The signal had returned from a point beyond the galaxy, from the cold, dark void where no known stars existed. Scientists calculated the delay. If the signal really came from that far away, it should have taken millions of years to come back. But it took only 3 days. Impossible. Utterly impossible. By the 6th day, things got worse. All around the world, strange things began to happen. The skies grew slightly brighter at night. The auroras, usually seen near the poles, appeared as far south as Africa and India. The frequency of the returning signal matched the change in Earth's magnetic field. And then a sound began. At first, only radio operators heard it, a low hum behind transmissions. Then ordinary people began hearing it too. A faint vibrating tone in the air. Cities reported it. Ships at sea heard it through their steel hulls. It had no clear source. It came from everywhere and nowhere. The hum began to shape itself. It wasn't random noise anymore. It carried a structure, a rhythm, almost like speech. Dr. Mara stayed awake for 2 nights straight, listening through her headset to the strange sound. At exactly 02:13 a.m., on the 8th day, the hum deepened. It formed a voice, not mechanical, not fully human either. A deep, layered sound, as if thousands of whispers spoke at once through static, and that voice said 2 words. We heard. Every system on Earth went silent. Power grids shut down for exactly 7 seconds. No light, no signal, no sound. Then everything came back. Computers rebooted. Radios buzzed to life. But the message was gone, completely erased from all recordings. Only one file remained. A broken audio clip buried in a Mars array backup drive. It lasted just 0.6 seconds, but the waveform showed a pattern no one had ever seen before. Some scientists said it looked like DNA. Others said it looked like a warning. Governments tried to keep it quiet. But the world already knew. Social feeds, news networks, underground channels, everyone was talking about the voice. And though most people couldn't hear it anymore, some still could. They said the hum never stopped, it just moved deeper. Below the level of hearing, doctors reported rising cases of sleeplessness, of people saying they felt the stars watching. Animals began acting strangely, birds refusing to fly south, dogs howling at clear skies. Something had changed, something in the universe had heard humanity's call. And it was listening now. Ending narration, low, suspenseful tone, and as the deep reach array continued to transmit, no one noticed a faint energy spike on the far side of Mars, a silent flicker in the dust. A small object, smooth, black metallic, appeared on the surface. No impact, no crater, just appeared. It pulsed once, matching the same rhythm as the heartbeat signal. 1, 2, pause, 1, 2. Humanity had sent a message to the stars, and now the stars had answered. The voice that said, "We heard," still haunted every scientist on Earth. It had been 2 weeks since the signal came back. 2 weeks since every sensor screamed and the world went silent. The government called it a controlled anomaly. But everyone knew it was more than that. Something had replied and left behind a message humanity couldn't yet understand. The United Earth Science Council created a secret division called the First Contact Committee. It was made of 12 people, scientists, linguists, and intelligence officers. Their task, decode the signal before the world found out the truth. At the center of it all stood Dr. Mara Cade, still sleepless, still obsessed. The broken data file from the Mars array was now her entire life. She had scanned it 1,000 times, but something about it didn't fit into any human logic. It wasn't just sound, it was a structure. Layers upon layers of repeating code, almost like DNA but digital. When her AI assistant tried to translate it, the program failed every time. Then on the 13th attempt, something strange happened. The computer didn't crash this time. Instead, it started to draw. On the holographic screen, lines began to form, circles, shapes, strange geometric loops connecting together. The image rotated in 3D space. It looked like a machine, a massive circular structure with inner rings, coils, and energy channels. The center glowed faintly blue, as if the data itself remembered light. At the bottom corner of the display, the AI labeled it Gate Stabilizer, Unknown Origin. Mara's breath froze. Was this a gift, a warning, or an invitation? 2 days later, the world's richest tech company, Helios Systems, got involved. They had been monitoring the Council's encrypted data in secret. Helios announced that it could build the device. Its CEO, Adrian Vox, appeared on every global broadcast. "We stand at the edge of a new dawn," he said proudly. "This machine will connect humanity to the stars." The signal was not a threat. It was a blueprint. Governments argued, but Helios didn't wait for permission. Construction began in orbit using the massive frames of old defense satellites. They called it the Helios Gate. While the world debated, Mara dug deeper. She discovered that the original signal didn't just return with a machine design. It carried coordinates hidden inside the pattern of the hum. Those coordinates didn't match any known galaxy or nebula. They pointed to a place outside the Milky Way, a cold stretch of intergalactic space where no light had ever been detected. She tried to warn the Council. "Something isn't right," she said during the meeting. "The code is not meant for us. It's not even from our timeline." But no one listened. Helios was already halfway done building the gate. They said the data stream predicted unlimited clean energy, and no one could resist that promise. By the time the Helios Gate reached 70% completion, Earth began to experience strange magnetic pulses. At first they were small, compass errors, mild interference. Then entire power grids began to flicker. The auroras returned, brighter than before. They now stretched across the entire sky, swirling with colors no human eye had ever seen. Mara ran new scans of the returning signal, and the data made her heart stop. The heartbeat pattern was slowing down. Each pulse grew weaker. as if something massive was charging or something alive was waking up. 3 days later, the Helios Gate powered on for its first test. The entire world watched through live broadcast. The ring floated above Earth, glowing faintly against the black void of space, activating primary coils, said the operator. A bright light filled the center of the structure. At first, it was beautiful, a silent blue spiral forming in the darkness. Then the readings began to spike. Energy output exceeded every safety limit. Space around the gate began to bend, distorting stars like water ripples. Alarms screamed through the control center. "Shut it down," Mara shouted through her comms. But the command didn't go through. Every communication channel was filled with static, and then silence. For exactly 7 seconds, the entire planet's magnetic field shifted. Compasses spun out of control. Gravity itself felt lighter. People looked up at the night sky, and for just one moment, the constellations changed. Stars moved. Not randomly, but deliberately. They aligned into shapes, geometric patterns that matched the machine's design, and then it was gone. Everything returned to normal. The gate shut down automatically. Scientists stared at the readings. No explosion, no damage. But something had changed. Later that night, a moon observatory in the Sea of Tranquility sent a strange report. A black shadow had appeared on the moon's surface. Not a crater, not a ship, just a dark, moving shape. It wasn't there before. It wasn't visible to the naked eye, but the instruments confirmed it. A perfect, symmetrical object, stationary yet pulsing faintly, like it was breathing. Mara received the last transmission from the lunar team. It contained one short message: "We see it now. It's watching." Then their feed went dead. Ending narration, soft, suspenseful tone. The Helios Gate remained silent, floating above Earth like a sleeping god. The world thought the danger had passed, but deep in space, beyond the coordinates of the signal, something stirred. Something that had waited for the call. The signal humanity sent was not an invitation. It was an activation key, and now the gate was only the beginning. The Helios Gate had been silent for 12 days. Floating high above Earth's orbit, the great ring hung like a broken halo, motionless, cold, but not dead. On the surface, life tried to move on. Governments reopened their networks. Scientists argued on news panels. And the world began to pretend everything was fine again. But it wasn't. Something had changed in the air, literally. Every device that could receive a signal, radios, phones, satellites, even baby monitors, began to pick up faint static whispers. Not constant, not loud, just enough to be noticed. At first, people ignored it. But then the whispers started to talk back. In the small town of New Kyoto, a radio operator named Ilanjiro heard something strange. He was tuning through the usual channels when his receiver froze on a blank frequency. No station, no broadcast, and just white noise. But underneath the noise, he heard a voice. It spoke softly, almost like it was learning to form words. Heard call. Ilan froze. He leaned closer to the receiver, adjusting the dials. The voice became clearer. "Do not run!" The sound cut out instantly. His radio sparked, and the power in his station failed. When he rebooted the system, the recording was gone, completely erased like it never existed. He wasn't the only one who heard it. Across the world, similar reports appeared online. A pilot flying over the Atlantic claimed he heard a voice whisper his name through his headset. A voice that knew him. A child in Brazil drew pictures of shadows with mouths of light. A Mars relay drone sent corrupted data files containing audio spikes shaped like human speech patterns. Dr. Mara. Cade had seen enough to know what was happening. The static wasn't random. It was a transmission, and something was using it to learn, to imitate human language. When she ran the static through her analyzer, she found repeating phrases buried under layers of noise. Each phrase said the same thing over and over. "We arrive, prepare." The First Contact Committee panicked. They ordered Helios systems to deactivate all signal relays and shut down the Helios Gate completely. but the command didn't go through. Helios engineers couldn't access the system. It had locked them out. The gate was now running autonomously. No human control. No off switch. CEO Adrian Vox claimed it was impossible. "Machines don't think," he said in a press conference. But the expression on his face betrayed fear. On the 20th day after the activation, Earth's deep space sensors picked up something, a massive object approaching from beyond the moon. It didn't reflect light. It didn't emit heat. It was invisible to the naked eye. Only the sensors could see it, a distortion in space itself, like a shadow moving through water. Every major space agency went on alert. Satellites recalibrated, defense systems armed themselves, and telescopes pointed toward the invisible threat. The object kept coming, silent, slow, intentional. Inside the Helios orbital control room, technicians stared in horror as the gate began to glow. It wasn't turned on, but something on the other side was powering it. The inner rings started to rotate, slowly at first, then faster, as if responding to an unseen command. Radio frequencies across Earth rose to a deafening static scream. Communication networks collapsed. Airplanes lost navigation. Even heart monitors began to flicker in hospitals worldwide. Mara realized something terrifying. The returning signal wasn't just communication. It was a bridge. Something or someone was trying to cross over. Sound cue, heavy distortion, slow thumping heartbeat. A transmission came through every working speaker on Earth at once. Every screen flickered to white noise. Every person who was awake heard the same thing. The static formed into words. "You called us. Do not run." Then, silence. 7 seconds later, the Helios Gate sent out a pulse so powerful that it briefly shut down the sun's solar monitoring satellites. The magnetic fields around Earth bent unnaturally, and for a moment, just a moment, the moon's surface rippled like water. When the distortion cleared, the object was gone, but a faint new echo appeared in the data stream, like something breathing between the stars. A week passed. People started having the same dream. Across continents and languages, millions described it identically, standing under a dark sky, watching the stars bend and fall like rain. And in the center of that darkness, a shape, shifting, glowing, watching. Psychologists called it mass hysteria. Scientists called it impossible. But Dr. Mara Cade knew better. She looked again at the hidden coordinates inside the signal's code. It wasn't just a place, it was a pathway. A route for something to travel, and the whispers growing in the static weren't from visitors who wanted peace. They were scouts, the first wave of something vast and ancient. Closing narration, slow, heavy tone. Late one night, Mara stood alone at her observatory window. The stars looked normal again, quiet, peaceful, still, but her instruments told a different story. Somewhere beyond the moon, a new signal had started. Not human, not alien, but both. It was calling back toward the void, repeating a single word. Awaken. The Helios Gate responded with a faint pulse. Its rings turned once more, slowly, like a heartbeat returning to life, and the static whispers became a roar. The Helios Gate had gone dark for almost a month. It floated silently above Earth, a giant ring of dead metal against the stars. Governments declared it inactive. People started calling it the useless halo, but Dr. Mara Cade didn't believe that. The readings from her deep space sensors told another story. Even when the gate looked silent, it was still feeding. It was drawing small bursts of energy from nearby satellites. Not enough to notice, but enough to stay alive. In her lab, Mara stared at the data streams. She could see faint pulses, tiny magnetic waves syncing perfectly with the rhythm of the old heartbeat pattern from the original signal. Something was still connected. Something on the other side was breathing in sync with Earth. She sent the report to the First Contact Committee, but most of them had already resigned. The world was tired of being afraid. Helios Systems had gone quiet too. Their CEO, Adrian Vox, hadn't been seen in weeks. Rumors said he'd been moved to a secret station orbiting near the gate itself. Then, on a quiet morning, the silence broke. All across Earth, the sky flickered, once like lightning trapped behind clouds. Then again, brighter. Airports, power grids, even personal devices failed all at once. For 10 full minutes, the planet went dark. No sound, no signals, no noise, and then the gate came alive. Its rings began to rotate on their own. Slowly at first, then faster. Smooth, precise, and unnatural. No engines, no thrusters. It moved as if space itself was being pulled along. The inner coils lit up, glowing with blue light, then gold, then white, so bright the cameras burned out. Inside the circle, the darkness rippled, as if the night itself was being folded in half. Back on Earth, Mara watched the live feed in shock. Every screen in her lab filled with chaotic data, frequencies she had never seen before. Each number danced in perfect rhythm with her own heartbeat. Then the gate spoke, not in words, but in vibration. A low, endless hum rolled through the planet. Buildings trembled. Oceans shifted slightly, as if gravity had hiccuped. Animals screamed. Birds dropped from the sky. People everywhere covered their ears, but the sound wasn't in their ears. It was inside them. In orbit, Helios engineers tried to send commands to shut it down. Nothing worked. Their controls were dead, their systems frozen in a loop of unreadable symbols. The gate had taken control. Suddenly, a shape appeared within the spinning light. At first it looked like fog, then fire, then something else. It was another world, a glowing horizon, sky full of strange storm clouds and lightning that moved sideways. And far in the distance, a ruined city. Towers of metal half buried in ash. The image flickered, but it wasn't a projection. It was real. A window through space. Maybe through time. Mara realized the coordinates from the original signal matched the location of that burning world. It wasn't alien. It was human, or what was left of them. She ran image analysis on the ruins. Among the broken buildings, symbols carved into the stone read, "Earth's children do not repeat." Her blood ran cold. The signal hadn't come from another species. It had come from another version of humanity. A civilization that lived, evolved, and died long before ours, and they had sent one last message, a warning disguised as a reply. In orbit, Helios Station's final transmission came through. A trembling voice said, "The gate is not opening to them, it's opening from them." Then static. Moments later, every telescope aimed at the gate recorded something impossible. Then static. Moments later, every telescope aimed at the gate recorded something impossible. From the glowing circle, a mechanical eye emerged, smooth, black, and enormous. It blinked once. A beam of light swept across Earth's surface like a silent scanner. Every satellite it touched shut down instantly. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the eye pulled back into the light. The gate stopped spinning. The glow faded. The hum went quiet, but not before one last pulse of energy swept through the planet. All digital clocks froze at the same moment, 11:11 p.m., universal time. When they restarted, every device on Earth displayed the same short message in white text. The door remembers. The world fell into confusion. Some said it was an alien attack. Others believed it was divine. But Mara knew better. She replayed the signal one last time, listening carefully to the faint noise hidden beneath. It wasn't static. It was a heartbeat, but slower now, almost like something was sleeping, waiting. The message from the ancient civilization echoed in her mind. Don't let the sky open twice. As the world stared at the now silent Helios Gate, no one noticed the small energy fluctuations in deep space. Far beyond the moon, a second distortion began to form. A faint circular outline made of shadow. The gate wasn't alone anymore. Something else had answered, and this time it wasn't sending a message. It was coming through. The gate had gone quiet again. No glow, no sound. Just a ring of cold metal hanging above Earth, a reminder that humanity had opened something it didn't understand. The world was divided. Some called it a miracle, others a curse, but for Dr. Mara Cade it was neither. It was a message, one she still hadn't finished reading. In her underground lab, far from the chaos of the surface, Mara replayed the last data packets recorded before the gate shut down. Hidden between the waves of static was something new, a layer of coded light frequencies. When decoded, the lights formed images, ruins, cities, skies full of smoke and fire. The same world she saw through the gate before it closed. But now she saw more. Among the wreckage were people, human or almost human, taller, pale-skinned, with glowing implants along their necks. They looked advanced, yet broken. And on one wall of their crumbling city, a phrase written in English letters, "We were you." The truth hit her like a shockwave. The beings on the other side weren't aliens. They were echoes of humanity, a forgotten branch of the species that had risen and fallen long before recorded history. Thousands of years ago, maybe millions, they had built their own version of the gate. They had reached for the stars. And something terrible had reached back. Mara took her findings to what remained of the First Contact Committee. Half of them refused to believe her. The others feared what it meant. If the ancient humans had fallen because of the gate, then humanity had just repeated their greatest mistake. She pulled up one of the ancient recordings recovered from the gate's data, a visual of a dark room filled with frightened faces. Their voices trembled as they spoke a final warning. It hears light. It follows the call. Do not build again. The feed ended with a massive flash of white, their last transmission before their world burned. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, strange things began happening again. The auroras returned, glowing deep red this time. Compasses spun wildly, and in some parts of the world, people began hearing whispers, familiar voices that spoke from inside their own minds. The voices said only one thing: we remember. Helios Systems, now under military control, wanted to restart the gate. They claimed it could become a weapon or a source of infinite power. General Corbin Hale, head of the Global Defense Coalition, called it humanity's best hope for survival. Mara tried to stop them. The gate isn't a doorway, she told them. It's a mirror. Every time we open it, we invite our reflection, and our reflection is not friendly, but no one listened. Plans were already underway to reactivate the machine. In secret, Mara searched deeper into the gate's stored memory. She discovered hidden code fragments that looked like coordinates, not to a planet, but to moments in time. The Echo civilization hadn't just sent a message from another world. They had sent it from the past. The gate didn't connect places. It connected eras. Every signal humanity sent had rippled backward through time, reaching their ancient ancestors, and waking something else in the process. That was the meaning of their warning. Don't let the sky open twice. They had opened it once, and it destroyed them. Now humanity had done it again. Then, without warning, the gate powered on by itself. Its inner rings spun faster than ever before, drawing power from unknown sources. The light this time wasn't blue or gold, it was black, like a hole cut into reality. Out of the darkness came a deep, rhythmic vibration. Not a voice, not a word, just a feeling. Ancient, heavy, endless. Earth's satellites started failing one by one. In every failure log, a single image appeared. A dark sun, with a single eye in its center. Mara knew that symbol. It was the same mark carved on the ruins of the Echo civilization. Within hours, panic consumed the world. Entire regions lost power. The sky filled with swirling red clouds. And through those clouds, faint shapes moved. Massive, slow, invisible, except for the lightning that outlined them. The gate's energy readings spiked beyond human measurement. If it wasn't shut down, it could tear open space itself. Governments decided to destroy it. They launched missiles toward the gate's orbit, but before they hit, the black light expanded, and the missiles vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone. The gate absorbed them like dust. Mara stood watching from her control room, her heart pounding as the sky above her pulsed in rhythm with the gate. Then, deep in the static of her communication feed, A voice returned, not alien, not human. It was hers, her own voice whispering from the other side. "Mara, if you hear this, we failed once already. Don't let it open again." Her hands trembled. Her own voice, from another time, another version of herself. It was true. The Echo civilization hadn't just been humanity's ancestors. They were echoes of every version of humanity that tried and failed before. The Helios Gate continued to grow brighter, its black light spreading like ink across the stars. The ancient message had warned them. But humanity had never been good at listening, and somewhere deep inside that endless light, the echoes began to move. A civilization long dead, coming back. Not to warn this time, but to reclaim what was once theirs. The world had stopped sleeping. Skies burned red every night, and the oceans glowed with strange light. Animals fled inland, satellites fell from orbit, and the air itself began to hum. A low, endless vibration. Every nation on Earth now looked upward, not toward the stars, but toward the gate. It hung above the planet like an eye that refused to blink. Its black light spread further every hour, pulling faint tendrils of darkness down toward the atmosphere. People called it the second sun, but it didn't give warmth, only fear. In the old Helios control station, Dr. Mara Cade stood surrounded by flickering monitors. Each one showed chaos, cities losing power, oceans rising, and people collapsing as the low-frequency pulse shook their minds. She hadn't slept in 3 days. Her only thought was clear: the gate must be closed, but she didn't know how. It had gone beyond human control. Suddenly, her assistant Yori burst into the room, his face pale with panic. "Mara, look outside." She turned toward the window. At first it looked like storm clouds. But then the sky itself began to tear open. Lines of fire stretched across the horizon, as if something was clawing its way through reality. Lightning struck in perfect rhythm, not random, but structured. It was forming symbols, the same ancient marks found on the ruins of the Echo civilization. "It's the same pattern," Mara whispered. "The same warning." Repeated. Then came the sound. It started as a soft wind, then a low whistle, and then a scream. Not from mouths, but from the sky itself. The air tore apart with a deafening roar. Every frequency on Earth was filled with the same sound: radios, phones, even the hum of power lines. It wasn't noise. It was language. The gate was speaking. All over the world, people fell to their knees, clutching their heads as the message echoed inside their minds. No translation software could decode it, but one phrase repeated clearly in every language known to man: "You opened what we sealed." In orbit, the Helios station came back online, but no humans were left aboard. Cameras showed corridors filled with drifting tools and floating bodies, their faces peaceful, as if they had heard something beautiful before dying. The station began to move on its own, aligning perfectly with the gate's spinning rings. And then, from deep space, the sensors detected movement, a fleet, thousands of objects, cold and silent, appearing from beyond the gate's event field. At first they looked like ships, massive, sharp, glowing faintly in the darkness. But as they came closer, their surfaces rippled alive, as if the metal itself was breathing. They weren't ships. They were living machines, remnants of the Echo civilization, or what was left of them. The Echoes had returned, their bodies fused with technology, their minds trapped in endless data loops, forever repeating their warning. And now they were here to finish what their ancestors had started. Governments tried to fight back. Missiles were launched, lasers fired, none of it mattered. The weapons turned to dust before reaching their targets. The Echo fleet moved without sound, without heat. Like ghosts made of gravity itself, the sky was screaming louder now. The gate glowing like a black star. Mara's computers began to shut down one by one, screens flooding with the same white text: "Humanity, version 7, error detected, reset required." She stared in disbelief. The Echoes weren't attacking, they were rebooting. They saw humanity as a broken version of themselves. Yori grabbed Mara's shoulder. If they reset us, what happens? Everything, she said quietly. All history, all memory erased. We'll start again. Then we fight, but Mara shook her head. No, we remember. She opened her old files, the original signal that started it all. Buried deep in the noise was a hidden pulse, one that matched the echo's frequency exactly. It wasn't a call for help. It was a key. As the world above them burned, Mara rerouted every satellite still active to focus their energy toward the gate's core. She was going to send the key back, the same way the first civilization had. If they built the gate, they had a shutdown code, she whispered. And they left it for us to find. Yori stared at her. What if it doesn't work? Then at least they'll know we tried. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. The lab shook violently. The ceiling cracked. The gate's light filled the sky, blinding everything. 6, 5. Through the static, Mara heard her own voice again, from the other side, older, broken. We failed the first 6 times. Don't fail the 7th, her eyes widened. Version 7, she whispered. We've done this before. 3, 2. She hit send. A beam of white light shot from Earth straight into the gate. The black glow twisted, screamed, and shattered. 1,000 fragments of time breaking all at once. The sky went silent. For one heartbeat, everything stopped. Wind, sound, motion, then a flash brighter than the sun filled the world. When the light faded, the gate was gone. The sky was clear, but the stars were different. Constellations had shifted. The moon looked younger. Even the air felt new. Mara opened her terminal. Only one file remained. It was a message. Version 8, system reboot successful. Humanity had survived. But maybe not the same humanity that began. The world was silent, and above the calm blue sky, a faint ring of light shimmered, just for a moment, as if something far beyond space was still watching. When the light faded, the world was quiet again. No thunder, no screaming sky, no burning clouds. For the first time in months, Earth looked peaceful. But something was different. The stars above had changed position, and the moon was whole again. No craters, no scars. It was as if the universe had been rewound. Dr. Mara Cade woke on the floor of her lab, the smell of smoke still hanging in the air. Her screens were blank except for one small line of text. System restored. Version 8 active. She sat up slowly, trying to remember everything. The gate, the light, the echo fleet, the scream that tore the sky apart. And her final act, sending the shutdown key, had it worked? Had she stopped the reset? She stepped outside into the morning air. The city was there, but rebuilt. Buildings that had been destroyed were whole again. Cars she remembered wrecked on the streets now moved perfectly. People walked by, smiling, unaware of what had happened. The world had been reset, but no one else remembered. Mara tried to reach Yori, but every signal came back empty. His name didn't exist in any database, no record, no trace. It was like he had never lived. Her heart sank. She opened the global network, searching for anything familiar. The systems were clean, too clean. Every file, every piece of history, every trace of the old world had been wiped. Only one folder remained in her terminal, marked with a symbol she had seen before. The dark sun, with a single eye. Inside was a single voice recording. To the next version, it said softly. We left you everything we could. The cycle always begins with hope and ends with noise. It was her voice again, older, weaker. A message from another version of herself. Mara looked toward the sky, where the gate once hung. Now only a faint shimmer remained, a ripple in the air, like a scar on reality. She stared at it for a long time. And then it blinked. A pulse of energy passed through the world again. Not destructive this time, just a reminder. The gate wasn't gone. It was watching. In the days that followed, strange patterns appeared across the planet. On beaches, sand formed perfect circles overnight. In forests, trees bent into spiral shapes. And across the sky, drones picked up whispers, soft, rhythmic, like breathing. It wasn't random. It was data. The gate was still sending signals, but this time it wasn't warning. It was teaching. Mara began decoding the new signals in secret. Each wave carried a fragment of memory, images of cities she didn't recognize, people she had never met, and stars that didn't exist in the current sky. It was the memory of previous worlds, the lives of the Echo civilization, and the 6 failed human versions before her. Only each one had built the gate, each one had destroyed themselves, each one had tried to send a message to the next, and now she was the last to receive it. Late one night, as the world slept peacefully, Mara stood alone by the ocean, a small transmitter in her hand. She spoke softly, knowing no one else would hear. If anyone out there remembers, this is version 8. We survived the reset. But I can feel it. The gate isn't finished. It's waiting for us to make the same mistake again. She paused. The waves glowed faintly, their motion matching the rhythm of her voice. We built machines to find life, she whispered. But maybe the machine was built to find us. Suddenly her transmitter flickered. The signal bounced back immediately, an echo. But this echo wasn't from the gate. It was coming from somewhere else, somewhere outside the universe. A calm voice answered her transmission. Maracade, version 8 confirmed. You are the last observer. The test is almost complete. Her breath froze. Test, she whispered. What test? Humanity, the voice replied. Every version was part of the same experiment. The gate was the interface. You built it because you were meant to. You always do. The stars above began to move again, slowly forming a perfect spiral. At the center of that spiral, a new gate appeared, not mechanical this time, but made of pure light. Mara stepped closer to the shore. If this is the end, she said quietly, then what was the point? The voice answered gently, like an echo of a parent to a child. To learn if humanity can remember. The spiral began to brighten. The light reflected in her eyes, a mix of fear and wonder. She raised her hand toward it. I remember, she whispered. All of it. The light pulsed once, and then faded. Closing narration. Calm, haunting tone. The next morning, the world continued as if nothing had happened. No one spoke of the gate. No one remembered the scream, the darkness, or the reset. But in the night sky, a single new star appeared. A star that blinked once every 7 seconds. Like a heartbeat, only Mara knew what it meant. It wasn't a star. It was a message, and somewhere across time and versions, a voice whispered softly into the void. Version 9. Your turn?